What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am your host, your bastard of ceremonies, Reckless Rexx Ruger. That is, of course, the always toothy Freddie Mercury puppet. We are back with another banger of an episode. This one's going to be an amazing episode with a guy that fronts a band that is extremely heavy. Well, this guy actually might rival me as far as the hardest working guy in the entertainment industry. He's got a lot of different projects, at least from me doing my research here. But Rip to Shreds is the one that I particularly want to talk about, where he came across my radar. So we will talk about that. Of course, let me give myself a look right here, fluff it up a little. Ooh! That is, of course, made possible by, get it, use it, love it. You might not be able to look this good, like Diamond David Lee Roth Jr. good, but you can certainly try. And my guest is here now, so let's shut up and get down to it on Pod Scum. Let's go. All right, Andrew. I got you.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Just got to get the camera on. Yep, it should be at the bottom of your screen there, where there's like an icon or a picture of the camera.
Oh, give me 1 second.
Sure. Yeah. Usually, when you come into the room, sometimes it'll prompt you to enable the microphone or the camera. If you're having issues, you can go out and pop back in. Sometimes that can help if the camera doesn't come on initially. Are you seeing a camera icon down at the bottom of the screen? There you go. Look at that. Made it happen, man.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm glad. Hey, listen, man. I appreciate you doing this, man. Really digging the Sanshi album, man, and congratulations, man. And it's getting fantastic reviews all over the metal world, man. So it's amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think we're all really happy with the way it turned out. You know, we worked. We worked a good bit on it. Sorry, I got something going on in my throat right now.
All right.
But yeah, we're trying to get all our ducks in a row so we can get out there and tour next year. We're in the middle of booking it right now, so I can't really say too much.
That's all right. That's all right. I certainly respect that. You know, there's certainly a business in industry side to all this stuff, man. So when things are in the working, I know sometimes you don't want to be too too free with your words before stuff is actually actually set in stone, man. But again, congratulations, man. This is, of course, Andrew Lee from Rip to Shreds. But listen, man, before I got on here, my little preamble, I was saying, man, you might be one of the hardest working guys in the metal world. I went on to do my research on you, and there was like a gazillion different projects on there, man. So first of all, man, where the fuck do you find the goddamn time? You're a busy guy.
I think for me it's easy because like none of my bands go on tour for like a month or 2 months at a time.
Okay.
And I live in this recording studio basically. I mean, this is the basement, right? But
okay.
So it's easy for me to like kind of just start recording whenever I have an idea and want to do something.
Gotcha.
So like, how to say, when I have some ideas, you know, I can just get started right away. I don't need to think about it too much.
You indulge them. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, because actually I don't practice that much with my live bands. You know, it's just whenever we have some shows or a tour coming up and we practice, but otherwise I pretty much only see these guys like maybe once a month at the most. So most of the time it's just me on my own, and whenever I get some ideas I just start working on it.
So you would say out of all those projects that are listed on the encyclopedia of metal, which had a lot of projects listed on there, Rip to Shreds is the focal point, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say it takes priority. If in terms of getting if we get like show offers or tour offers or whatever, Rip to Shreds is the priority. But I would say I try to put the same amount of energy into all of my projects.
Sure.
As I come up with the ideas.
Okay. Fair enough. And so usually I kick off the interviews by asking, kind of getting the origin story of like where people's musical journey starts. Was there a particular artist or an album or a song that really lit the fuse for you on this musical journey of getting in there and doing it trying to do it for a living?
So I don't do this for a living. This is entirely this is just what I do for fun. This is
right, but you know what I mean. Like even to pursue musical endeavors or creative outlets. Yeah, I mean, what was the inspiration for you though? Was there an artist or an album or a song where you kind of said, "Man, music has gotten into my veins here. I'm going to pursue it."
So actually, I have been playing guitar for a really long time.
Sure.
I started when I was in high school, like 2005 or 6. But I just played for fun. I didn't think about like writing music or starting a band or any of that until about like 2015 or 16, around there.
Okay.
And that, because at that point, that's when there were 2 records that came out. One was Dead Congregation's Promulgation of the Fall, and the other was Horrendous's Ecdysis.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for a really long time, I had been kind of out of touch with metal. I was like primarily listening to like jazz or at the time I was like primarily listening to jazz.
Yeah.
And I just didn't really have much to do with the metal world anymore. And when I heard those 2 records, that's kind of what like flipped the switch.
Yeah.
And I dove back into metal and really got into the underground then. And it was also when I heard those 2 records, I was like, I need to kind of do this. I felt the desire to write music for myself.
Yeah. That's a powerful statement, man. And hey, fucking shout out and kudos to those fucking artists in those albums, man, because they relit the fuse for you, so to speak.
For sure. Yeah.
I also saw, and occasionally when I'm going to have a guest on, I will sometimes, obviously, initially making contact with you on Facebook, I will kind of go to the last couple of weeks of posts just to kind of see if there's anything pertinent or interesting to talk to. It does say at the top of your Facebook page, you make no bones about being a huge Chris Barnes fan. I will stalk. I will go to great lengths to get material to ask questions about. If I see someone put right at the top of their page, they're a Chris Barnes fan, I got to go there.
I like what he did in Cannibal.
Yeah. Not as much a fan of the 6 Feet Under stuff.
The first 2 records are okay. The first 2 records are okay. I just think it's really funny when he does his Graveyards Classics records.
Okay.
I think he's doing the absolute best job that he can.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he doesn't realize that he sounds like total dog shit.
Yeah.
And so there are a couple of I made a couple of covers with friends for fun, where we are doing like a Graveyard Classics kind of thing, and like I'm imitating Chris Barnes' voice. And I don't know. I just find that kind of funny, and I think especially on the Queensryche one we did, there there were people who were like, they weren't sure if this was like a joke or if that was actually like Chris Barnes decided to do a Queensryche cover.
Well, obviously you taking Chris Barnes to task and criticizing, some of his work is certainly going to make the Cannibal Corpse fans who are pro Corpse Grinder very happy. And believe me, it is a very polarizing topic, man. Each has their fans, and their purists, so it is a very dividing topic. I even last year had the great Paul Mazurkowitz, the drummer for Cannibal Corpse, on. He certainly, copped to the fact that there are huge differences in both guys. But, and this could be where the band was in 2023. His opinion obviously should lie there and be loyal to his singer. But he thought the Corpse Grinder coming into the band made them a much better band.
Yeah, I think there's a very clear, because honestly, I only really like two of the Corpse Grinder records.
Yeah.
So like Kill, I think Kill is a great record.
Mm-hmm.
And Skeletal Domain is also a great record. But I think for whatever reason they started getting, and I think that was like one of the reasons why they wanted to kick Barnes out at the time, was they were like getting more technical and they were getting like a little bit more polished. And I guess that's just something I didn't really enjoy from Cannibal in general.
Okay.
Which is why I like the Barnes era a little more.
You like it raw and guttural and even a little loose and sloppy. I would say back then, man, the whole thing was a little more primitive.
Yeah. That's what kind of appealed to me about old Cannibal that new Cannibal just doesn't really have.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, because I've seen Cannibal. I've never seen them with Barnes, obviously. I don't think I don't think I would want to see them with Barnes at this point.
Yeah, you would.
But,
yeah.
I think they Corpse Grinder pulled off the old stuff live great. So
yeah,
it was a really sick show.
Yeah, I've seen Cannibal with Corpse Grinder, and yeah, I would have to agree. I was also fortunate enough to see them last year when also now Eric Rattan is now in the band, and I think he makes them sound pretty damn fucking good too, man. It helps. Yeah.
No, I think when I saw them, it was still Pat.
Yeah.
I don't think they had Eric yet.
Yeah. We shout out to Pat. We love his work, man. He had his personal issues and demons that he seemed like he was exercising, man. Obviously we wish him well on on that journey. He was on a lot of fucking banger Cannibal Corpse albums, man. But obviously he was going through some pretty heavy shit at the time. I think it was a business decision where they had to put him out of the band,
Yeah. I think he's playing with is he playing with Solstice right now?
I don't know, but I know that he is back to. I did read somewhere that he is back to doing something musically. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm
not like in the same capacity he used to.
Right.
Like just very low key.
Right.
A few shows here or there. I think that's what I remember.
Also from my delving onto the Facebook page, I did see, and this is probably in the last couple of weeks, you sporting, and I'm curious to get your opinions on him as a vocalist. You had a fantastic Glenn Benton t-shirt on, crisscrossed guns. That was pretty badass.
Yeah, no, Deicide is one of my favorite death metal bands.
Okay. Fair
enough. They had a pretty long period where they put out, a bunch of stinkers, but I think the classic stuff.
Are you more pro? Are you more pro Deicide with Hoffman Brothers?
I mean, so the Hoffman era, like half of it is good. That's the early stuff, and half of it is absolutely dog shit.
Okay.
But there are a couple of records without the Hoffman Brothers, like In the Minds of Evil, or I believe Stench of Redemption also doesn't have them.
Yeah.
And those records I think are almost as good as the old ones. But I think I really like Glenn as a vocalist. I think he kind of to me, what always stands out about Glenn is that his vocals are always super catchy. And that's something that, it does get lost by a lot of death metal vocalists. Even great ones like Old Barnes or Frank Mullen or like maybe even LG Petrov to a point. You know, you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
But it doesn't like stick in your brain the way, you know, like Dead by Dawn or Sacrificial Suicide. That shit like sticks in your brain, and that's why I think Glenn's so great.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I do get it. Again, that's another polarizing topic too, man, because people think they did their best work with the Hoffman brothers. And shout out the Hoffman brothers, great guitar players, man. I'm pretty sure that one of them, in some way, shape, or form, the bigger blonde guy, is still trying to do something musically. I think the other guy is pretty content just making and building guitars now. I think that's his thing from what I saw on Facebook.
Yeah, I think Eric is still doing Amen.
Yeah, Eric's still trying to do Amen, and Brian is doing the whole building some sick ass looking fucking guitars too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how they sound. I'm not a musician, you know, myself. Just like talking to him here on the podcast, and obviously just love my music, man. But you know, at least structurally wise, the bodies on them look sick.
Yeah, I honestly I haven't checked out their guitars before, so I couldn't say. But I did read. Did you check out that Scott Burns book?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. What's the title of it? Yeah, I've been seeing it all over the place. It's been on my radar all over the place. I have to get to reading it. Yeah,
and he talks about working with the Hoffmans, and I think he's not the most complimentary about their guitar sound.
No, well, yeah, well, there's that, and I think overall too, man. Glenn has made no bones in interviews about them just being overall difficult to work with as well.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I would want to play one of their guitars if they're not that good at making them sound good.
That's true. That's a good point. Touche to the Hoffman brothers, or at least the one who's making guitars. Yeah, the proof is in the pudding, I guess. But I'm interested to get your take on what your own creative process is like, because you are, you know, as you say, indulging different creative sparks of motivation, and you're putting together these different projects. What's your creative process like? Are you somebody that sits down and secludes yourself and makes yourself create, or does the stuff just kind of come to you throughout the day and you just kind of, you know, stop and deal with it?
Usually it comes as so I'm not going to sit down and like be doing something and then suddenly I have an idea and then I'll start working on it.
Yeah.
So usually it's like, I think, okay, I want to explore a specific idea. Like maybe I specifically want to work on a glam ballad, or maybe I specifically want to write a song with the fastest blast beats I can get out of my drummer. You know? And then once I have an idea of what I'm trying to do, that's when ideas start to come to me. But without that kind of a basis of what I want to do, it's a bit it's hard for ideas to come. So it always starts with me already knowing what kind of song or what kind of album or split or EP or whatever that I want to make.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. And interested because you're a guy that makes extreme metal music, where you stand on this. Now, sometimes, as you say, you're talking about blast beats, you're talking about extreme metal. It's obviously, you know, a big part of what you do. But can a band sometimes be too heavy for its own good and sometimes lose some sense of melody? One of the things you talked about just now with Glenn Benton was how catchy things could be and accessible to the ear. Do you think sometimes music can just be a wall of noise and almost ceases to be enjoyable, or is there no limits? Just go as heavy as fucking possible.
I don't think there's any limits. It's just what I personally prefer to listen to.
Okay.
When it comes to death metal, I mean, obviously, you know, I also do gore grind, right? And one of my favorite bands there is Last Days of Humanity, and they have that Putrefaction in Progress record where it's literally nothing but snare drum and gurgling vocal. And I think it's one of the best things ever made. But so for me, it's just like a matter of what I'm trying to do and what I'm in the mood for. So for Rip to Shreds specifically, I try to bring in that Glenn Benton catchiness aspect. But I don't think that's something that's necessary or appropriate for all death metal.
Right. Good point. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah. And so like what about like I'm interested to get your take on a death metal band. Phil Anselmo supports these guys. They're often touted as one of, if not the heaviest bands out there. I'm curious what you think about Portal. Are you familiar with the work of Portal?
Yeah, I think Portal's terrible. I
You
think they're one
do.
of the
Okay.
worst bands I've ever heard.
Okay.
I think I mean, I can appreciate why people like them. I can appreciate that they've been doing their kind of dissonant, noisy thing before, a lot of the current bands out there were doing something a little bit similar.
Yeah.
But to me, I can't get into it. It sounds like noise to me.
I was just curious to get your opinion because you do see somebody that's in a high-profile position like a Phil Anselmo going around, and he does the same thing with King Parrot. I mean, there are some bands from Australia. He's really tried to do his part to be like a human billboard and really get their name out there. And Portal's another one of those bands, and he's a guy with a high profile because of what he does and because now Pantera is back in full swing again. And it just seems like he's a guy that goes from interview to interview to interview and really talks these guys up. I know they do the whole costume thing. It's very over the top. They're anonymous and masks and everything. So a lot of it is very theatrical.
I don't know if I would feel differently if I saw them live, but at least just, listening to like Vexavoid or Sword or, any of their studio recordings, it's just not for me.
Yeah.
I think probably Phil, for someone like Phil, because like Portal's been around since the late 90s,
Yeah.
right? I think the late 90s.
Yep, they
So
have.
they'd be one of the most high-profile bands of that kind. I mean, of course, relative to something like Pantera, they're like a drop in the bucket, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, I would be more surprised if I heard Phil talking up a band like Beyond from Germany, or shit. My mind's blanking, but like, yeah, if he was talking up a band, like an obscure band like Beyond, then I would kind of be like, whoa. I guess Phil's really got his ear to the underground.
And for somebody that does this in the death metal genre, one thing that I truly appreciate, and I want to commend you on it before I go any further in the interview, though, is I do like the fact that that you're willing to be honest and critical on your views of some of these guys that may be perceived as legends. I don't know if we'll take flack in the comment section of this episode or not. Maybe nobody says a word about it, man. But the fact that you will say that, there are Deicide albums that sound like dog shit, and there is stuff that Cannibal has done. I appreciate the honesty. I want to get that out of the way, man. That you're very candid about stuff.
I feel like that's not a very controversial thing, right? I mean, even
well, music is subjective in nature. I mean,
that's true. I mean, even some of my favorite, like I feel like honestly, I feel like famous bands get a little bit of a different treatment, because like I would be willing to say that about a band like Cannibal or Deicide, because they're legends. Like whatever I say doesn't matter. But if there's like a young new band out of like bumfuck Tennessee or wherever, and I'm like, I wouldn't go out there and say, wow, they sound like shit, because that just doesn't seem
right
on. But like these legends, they already made their career. It's okay if I talk shit on some of their bad stuff.
Absolutely not. Absolutely. And personally, I think it's refreshing when you do hear that, because I don't think every band should just automatically have their ego stroked, and just because they keep putting out albums, you keep telling them, oh, every one of them is fucking great, it's a masterpiece or whatever, man. I think bands, I think they can be thick-skinned enough to fucking be told that they've had some clunkers,
I think a lot of like these really long-running bands, I think they know that their new stuff. I mean, if you look at their set lists, right? Their set lists are going to be packed with the classics, because they know that's what the fans want to hear. I mean, they make a new album, so they have a reason to go on tour. But I would be very surprised if any of them actually thought their new records were, like literally as good as their old records.
I agree.
maybe a band like Immolation would, like they're rare bands that manage to keep up the quality, for 30 some years. And maybe
Yeah.
a band like Immolation would say, this actually is the best thing we've ever done.
Right.
And
right.
I would be willing to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. And so I'm curious to ask, first of all, I don't want to assume one or another. What nationality are you?
American, but my parents came from Taiwan.
Okay, so I want to ask, one of my dearest friends who I grew up with was from Laos. I remember growing up and going over to his house a lot, being there a lot for family dinner, seeing the inner workings, of a household. With parents and that cultural difference, where do they stand on what you do, like musically? Because I know sometimes, parents of certain backgrounds can sometimes be, tough on their kids if they want to get into the arts. They want to see you be a doctor. They want to see you be, what I mean? Where do your parents stand on like what you do as far as your music?
I think they think it's noise, but
yeah,
they know it makes me happy, which
right.
for them is like what really matters.
Yeah,
like they think it's they don't like understand it when they hear it, but they understand it makes me happy, and that's what's important to them. So
shout out to them, though, man. Shout out to them for being good parents and having the wherewithal to do that. Because there are parents that sometimes will come down hard on their kids sometimes, and it's not really necessary. I have 3 grown children. Anything they wanted to explore within reason, man, or whatever taste they wanted to indulge, man. It's everyone's individual journey.
Right.
So, I want to ask you, man, for you personally, man, I usually ask this question. Your Mount Rushmore of all-time artists, man. If you could put your 4 goats up there, man, on that Mount Rushmore, boom, 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 the 4 bands or acts or musicians, whatever, who would they be for you?
Oh, geez.
Strictly subjective, of course.
We're not breaking this down by genre or anything.
Not genres, man. Just the great for the who you put up there as your Mecca, man. Your 4, man. Your Mount Rushmore.
Jeez. Alan Holdsworth, Nick Anderson, Utada Hikaru, and Nobuo Uematsu, I think.
Wow. And you know what, man? Hats off to you, man. You named off your artists, whether how familiar people are or how obscure they are or not, man. You didn't think much about it, man. So you can tell that those are passionate to you, man. Because sometimes people will hit that question and they'll be like, oh, fuck, who are my 4 great? And sometimes I have to deliberate on it for a while. You seem like, okay, man, these are the 4 that are locked in here for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like those are just the ones I listen to the most, right? If I had like more granular, okay, what's your Mount Rushmore for death metal, or what's your Mount Rushmore for like just metal period, as opposed to like all music,
Okay, so I'll pose it to you that way because people are coming on here, and because of what I do, and it's mostly rockers and metal musicians, man. Then run that back and give me your 4 death metal acts, because obviously people that are fans of of what you do are going to come on here and say, hey, shit, that's the guy from Rip to Shreds. So. But give me your death metal Mount Rushmore.
Okay. Dead Infection, Entombed, Terrorizer, and Funebrarum.
Okay. Yeah. And even those you didn't really think about a lot, man. Entombed was so fucking great, though, man. And you're obviously talking about the Lars Goran Petrov years.
Yeah. I mean, I love Wolverine Blues. I think that's still a really sick album. I know that one starts to be a little bit controversial. I think everyone can agree after Wolverine Blues, it's not very good.
Yeah, but I do think that a seminal album that will always be revered will be Left Hand Path forever.
Okay. Well, that's like it's unquestionable.
Yeah.
I don't think anything will ever knock it off the pedestal it's on.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to ask you your opinion when you see from now. I'm speaking to you specifically from a musical fan standpoint. Now, when you see these bands, and I think you made reference to this earlier with some guys that are still well into their career and not quite cutting the mustard. People sometimes staying at the party too long. What's your opinion when we see these bands you know, like a Motley Crue or a Kiss. And we see these bands that are taking the people's money and they're using these backing tracks, or I'm not a musician myself, so these are just terms, you know, that I hear, or they're using different smoke and mirror tricks to like bolster up the sound. Is that acceptable, man? Or should these bands be coming out and just being warts and all, give us the genuine article, and even if you sound kind of shitty, so be it?
Again, I think it's down to expectations. I think with these big legacy arena acts, you know, they may have started as a sleazy rock band playing bars to like 50 people in the 80s.
Yeah.
But that's not who they are anymore, right? They're
right.
like a brand unto themselves.
Yeah.
They are an experience, and when you go, you expect to get your money's worth, right? So I personally think it's fine for huge bands that are expected to put on a spectacle every night to do whatever is necessary. I think that's probably not exactly a popular opinion for a lot of musicians, but I think if you're out there trying to create a spectacle, I don't really care how you do it. Give me a spectacle.
Right.
But conversely, if I was seeing them in a bar playing to 50 people and they're using backing tracks and that's super lame, you know, then in that environment, I want to see them warts and all.
You want to see it stripped down, man. Yeah, you want to see the real deal, man. Yeah. And I get it. You know, it is tough nowadays because people are there. They've got their phones out. They're recording it. They're going home and blasting it on YouTube. And the artist is really damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. If you don't bolster the sound with the tricks, everybody still walks out of there, puts the video up, and says, "Oh, they can't do what they did 30 years ago. Listen to how shitty they sound." You know?
Yeah. I do think that, you know, being able to record at any moment is probably a huge factor too, because, you know, you might have some like really shitty fan bootlegs like in the late 90s or early 2000s that would get passed around to like 100 people, and it would sound so terrible, like no one would really care what was on it. But now everyone can have like super high quality video and audio at every show, and if you make a mistake, you know, that's what goes viral.
Right. Yeah. So I think before you know, I get to wrapping the interview up, I think people would probably like me to delve a little more into the Sanshi album, and you know, like I don't know how much you pay attention to this stuff, but I can tell you, man, that the reviews on it on different metal sites and metal pages, and I try to keep my ear to the pavement doing this podcast, keep up with stuff. It's getting talked about. There's a nice buzz about it. How do you feel about the reception of it?
I mean, I'm stoked. I think the sales were a little bit better than the sales and the streaming and whatever. They were all a little bit better at this point than they were on the last record, which is always nice. I think in general, I mean, we're all, of course, we're happy when we see someone give us a good review or whatever. But I think at the end of the day, for everyone in the band and me especially, we make music to make ourselves happy. So, you know, even if people out there were like, "Oh, this is the worst record they've ever done," or whatever, as long as the record made us happy, that's really the only thing that matters to us. I mean, ultimately, we're not a commercial band, man. We play to like 50 people, and we just kind of do what we do. So for us, it's more important that we're happy and satisfied with whatever we made than anything else.
Well, I could rest assured, man, that no matter how much you're keeping track of it, you know, I do my homework with these interviews. I try to have stuff prepared to talk about and know what I'm talking about and what you've currently done, and at least be up to speed on that, man. And the Sanshi album is doing extremely well. It's receiving extremely high praise, man. You know, I've listened to it through a couple times. I like to give everything its fair assessment, man, before I talk to the person that created it. It's a fucking banger, man. It's a fucking face melter.
Thanks.
Yeah, really great. I mean, and how fast do you think about following an album like this up? This just came out last month, but because it seems like, I think this trend kind of started around COVID. Everybody seems like they're worried about being forgotten about. And I know you're not doing this, you know, to make a living and to get rich or whatever, but how fast, when an album gets acclaim like this, do you think about like coming out with something else? Are you already in the works of coming out with something else?
No, I don't. So really the proper way to do it is for us to have a tour lined up to coincide with the record's release. But
Right.
we had our tour lined up for earlier this year in April. That's when we went from like Chicago to New York and then up into Canada and then back. And
Do you know who you were going to be with?
That was our last tour. That was with Nucleus. Our next tour, yeah, we know who we're going with, but it's still
right.
under wraps.
I know you didn't want to say anything about it, but you do kind of have an idea of who you're going to be paired up with. Okay.
Yeah. I guess things just took a little bit longer than we expected. Because we wanted to have the tour put together a bit earlier, but things happen the way they do. And really, I think for bands like around our level or a bit higher, I think what they're really thinking about is when can they go on tour, where can they hit, where can they like maximize their tour routing. I think that to them is a little bit more what they're thinking about than like, when do we put out a new record? Because really in the industry, the record is a reason for you to tour, and the tour is where you make your money and you make your fans. So, but we're not like a normal band. So, when I'm ready, then I'll start thinking about a new record. But I'm just not there yet. I feel like I put a lot of energy into this one, and I haven't gotten it back yet to be ready for making another one.
And so the guys that come in and make this album with you, these would be the same guys. It's a core group that's all kind of invested and kind of rowing in the same direction, so to speak. These would be the same guys that, if a tour does happen, these are the guys that are going out, same guys from the record.
Yeah. Oh, well, specifically for the next run we have lined up, because I mean we're all in like a whole bunch of different bands, and we all have like different responsibilities, so the schedules can be a bit tough to line up. So we have some fill-ins, but Mike, the other vocalist and guitarist, is coming with us on the spring tour. Yeah.
Okay.
And hopefully we'll have everyone, the whole band, when we go to Japan at the end of next year. Yeah.
Now, when you're going to listen to music from a fan standpoint, do you tend to be the type of listener who is, and I was guilty of this for a long time, being 51 years old, sometimes I can be just a stodgy old fuck. And when I'm going to listen to music, I'm leaning on my old favorites and finding it very difficult to explore new music and find new shit that's out there that's engaging and entertaining. Are you able to discover any new bands, or are you the other kind of listener that just kind of likes what you like and you lean on it?
I mean, I certainly used to listen to a lot more new music than I do now. I think maybe in the last like 2 or 3 years or so, I've slowed down on like checking out new music. But I mean, I still try and give new bands a fair shake. But really like I've mostly been listening to just like grindcore and gore grind the last couple of years. I'm not really sure what new death metal bands have even come out in the last year or two, honestly.
Okay, fair enough. But hey, you know what? Maybe that's a healthy thing, man. You're not looking over your shoulder and looking at competition, man, and even worrying about what's going on in the genre. You focus on your own shit and put your own shit out, and people are still going to be doing and putting out what they're going to be putting out. You know what I mean? Like you're in your lane for a reason. You put out what you put out, and what anybody else is going to do is what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are bands that, I don't want to say chase trends, but it seems like there are bands that kind of try to follow what the popular flavor of the month is, and I guess if it works for them, that's their business. I just couldn't imagine doing things that way.
Are you okay with because you have been so candid and so honest and made, assertive points and even been critical about people's music. Are you also okay, to take that criticism back? Like if somebody else were to come on here and say, a bad opinion of the Rip to Shreds album, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think however they perceive the record, that's on them, right?
Yeah.
If they don't like something, then they don't like something. There's not much I can do to change about that.
Yeah.
But then I just know they have bad taste in death metal. That's all.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Again, you take music and its, at its basic essence, it's all subjective, man. It's all completely whatever a person likes. I mean, I can't tell you that you have to like what I like or vice versa, man. It's all just how something hits us in our ears, how we respond to it. I mean, so is there anybody out there currently right now, making death metal right now that has you excited? Is there an album that just came out that excited you, or one that's maybe going to come out that you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm really looking forward to the new Morgue Breath album. So that's, I mean, it's like, it's more grindcore. It is grindcore, but there's a lot of like death metal elements to it. It's like, it exists in that like kind of repulsion space where, the way it's put together is pretty grindcore, but maybe like from a very mid 80s, late 80s, where the line between grindcore and death metal wasn't like clearly defined yet.
Okay. Yeah. And if you could put your imaginary promoter's hat on for a minute, and you could make the dream tour, a 3-band bill, Rip to Shreds is one of them. Who would you be out there on tour with if you could put together a tour package that you would love to be on? 2 other bands.
Terrorizer LA and Entombed.
Wow, that would be a massive bill, man.
Yeah.
No, I don't have this in my notes or in front of me, so forgive me for not knowing this. And maybe I do know this and just have forgotten it, man. But is there any form of Entombed doing music right now? I know once there was an Entombed AD. Is there any incarnation right now of an Entombed?
So I remember like maybe 2021 or something, Nick and Uff and Alex Halid played a show in Sweden where they did the entire Clandestine album in full.
Okay.
And that was with the singer and the bassist from Morbus Chron.
Okay.
So there is at least one version of the. So I guess that would be the original Entombed. Yeah.
Most of them. Yeah.
I think Uff has the rights to the name, and that's why. That's why there's the split with Entombed AD, because Uff didn't want to do it anymore, and LG and the other guys wanted to keep going.
Yeah.
So they had to add AD to their name, but I guess Uff and Nick and Alex were willing to do at least one show. So cross my fingers. Hope they feel like doing more shows.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, hey, man, it would be an honor, man. Like those guys, one of the big 4 of Swedish death metal, man. I mean, an amazing band. I mean, timeless, man. I mean, I a couple weeks ago, I had Fred, the drummer from Dismember, on, another band that's in that big 4 of Swedish death metal bands. Sweden's given us some great death metal, though, man. They got they got the recipe over there.
Oh yeah. Oh, another recent thing that came out of Sweden. The new Bastard Priest 7-inch. They're like a very crusty kind of death metal duo out of Sweden, and they just put out a 7-inch a couple weeks ago, and I thought that was really sick.
Now, if I pose the question to you, I usually save this one for towards the end. If I'm dropping Andrew Lee on a desert island, what's the desert island album that he takes with him? He can only take one.
Just one.
Just one.
God damn it. Oh, shit.
Don't make me start the breakdown now, because we got a good report, and do like I've been doing with other guests and saying, God damn it, I like you. I'll let you take someone's whole discography. I've been doing that much too much lately, and I'm not making people stick to one desert island album.
1989. Taylor Swift.
Okay.
I'm serious. Yeah. I have a whole bunch of
desert island with
on vinyl. I would love to go to a Taylor Swift concert, but I'm a little bit it's not a gorf. I don't like big crowds. I don't like big arena type shows. So if she ever played like smaller type show, I'm throwing my money at that.
Now that's the boldest move you've made. You've been critical of other bands in this episode, but the boldest move, getting your metalhead card pulled, is admitting the Taylor Swift thing, man. Copping to that at the very end, man. But hey, I salute you for it, man.
One of my favorite artists.
I salute you for it. Hey, listen, man. I got a wife downstairs and granddaughters that are not going to disagree, man. They go banana. They go ape shit for her, man. Hey, she's talented, man, and I'll give her credit, man. You know, she's creating her own music, man. You know, she's not just a pop diva sitting back and letting like big hit makers write her songs for her. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, like honestly, I do like a lot of those. You know, like Max Martin. I think Max Martin did two or three songs with Taylor Swift, but that dude wrote so many of the huge hits of the 90s.
Yeah,
I would love to work with Max Martin if I got the chance.
Yeah,
I don't know what kind of music would come out of it because I don't think he listens to death metal. But I mean, Max,
you guys could find some common ground. Yeah.
I think he used to play in like a glam metal band.
Yeah,
really way back in the 80s.
Well, that would be interesting to see somebody who does what you do work with somebody that does glam metal. That would be some bastard child. Yeah, that'd be some good shit. Well, hey, listen, man, you know, gave me 45 minutes of your time, man. I really appreciate it, man. The generosity, man, and just how candid and honest you were, man, and expressing your opinions and stuff. And, you know, we were having some laughs and having a good time, man. I appreciate it, man. I'm glad we're in touch, man. I urge people to check out Rip to Shreds. Check out this new Sanshi album, man. Fucking absolutely amazing. I love what you do, man. I love your sound, man, and the intensity that you attack it with, man. And keep in touch. We'll do it again, man, for sure. I'll have you back on. Yeah.
For sure. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Thanks so much, man. Great talking to you, my man. Great meeting you, man. And love the album, man.
Peace.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon, man. Later, my man. There he goes, folks. Andrew Lee, one of those guys, man, that's fucking flying the flag for death metal, man. Although he did have a pretty eclectic taste, man. I got to salute him for that, man. But what I came across on my radar was Rip to Shreds, and the album is called Sanshi. It literally just came out September 27th, so it's a mere couple of weeks old, man. But holy shit, man, talk about a face fucking melter, man. A great band. I believe they're from California, because I believe that was what I had written down here as our time difference. Ripped to Shreds. That's Andrew Lee, guy who's growling like a motherfucker on there and playing some nasty ass fucking tasty guitar, man. I would check it out, man, for sure, man. If you're down for some brutal old school death metal, man, that's what this dude's all about, man. That's what him and his band are making, man. I mean, you heard who his idols are, you heard who his influences are, man. So should be able to figure out what he's gonna do when he fucking throws down, man. He's gonna bring it fucking heavy, and this Rip to Shreds album, Sanshi, is just that fucking heavy. So thank you to Andrew Lee for coming on here and doing Pod Scum, man. Love that fucking interview, man. Definitely make sure to like and follow us on Facebook, and like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on this channel to stay tapped in. This is where the cool kids come to chop it up with your boy Rexx Ruger, who even at the end of an interview, man, is still fucking looking goddamn good, man. And like I always say when I end these things, remember to take it easy and keep it sleazy.